Well, I'm going to give you the fast and dirty way to check the charging system on a Harley-Davidson Sportster or any bike X or anything. Um, but I want to point out, I think it's the early Evos. I think it was 88 to 90 or 86 to 90. The ones with the 4-speed chain drive, the first evolutions with the Sportster. They've always had a problem with the charging system. It's well, it's something that aggravated me that I thought I had fixed because I put it in a different clutch basket. What happens is the clutch basket has the magnets on it that spin around the stator, and those magnets come loose and they'll hit the stator, and goodbye stator, and you have to get another clutch basket. I'm going to go over a couple problems with this, but I don't know if I'm going to have to pull this apart or if it's just some simple wiring thing. Now, I put another clutch basket on it that had a nylon basket where all the magnets were in so they wouldn't slip off. But there's even a better design now that's a stainless steel ring that totally covers up the magnets so they won't hit the stator. I mean, it's like, it's pretty much foolproof. Now, when they came out with the 5-speed Sportster, they changed the charging system to the front drive. So it's got more spin, it spins faster too, besides, so you get more charging out of it, like at low RPM. And you don't have the problem where, the magnets are going to hit the stator. And if it does, I mean, it's a much cheaper part because you're not changing out the whole clutch shell and everything. That part on the clutch shell was, I think, list from the dealer was $600. That's why I didn't like changing it. Then you had to buy a stator, which was about 100 or almost 100, and I did that a couple of times actually. Even had the I'm talking a lot here because just passing on some tips that some people probably ain't run into, even though they had these bikes a long time, because I know they ain't ridden that much sometimes. But the other thing is, you might find the starter ring gear will slip on the clutch shell. Now these parts are actually made in Japan, but hey, I don't know. Maybe they might, I don't know what the hell the deal is, but it's an interference fit. That's an easy fix. All you do is you put some welds around the starter ring gear onto the clutch shell, and that holds it in place, so you don't have to worry about that. But when those weights come off, you're screwed. So now the last way to check it, like the battery resting, should be about 12.6, 12.7 volts. So I've been running a little bit. You can see the gauge there is, getting up close, 12.47, 12.5 volts. That's pretty close to full charge. So if I start this up, it should go up to a good 13 or so at least. So it's definitely not charging. So I'm going to show you what it is on a car, for instance. But this is where you can check anything. So people will have these idiot lights in these cars. They ought to be having a voltmeter. I hate freaking idiot lights. And the bike doesn't even have an idiot light for a freaking generator. But I'm going to check out the rest of this to show you how to test the stator and all that type of stuff. And then I'll update it with another video showing how to change the clutch, to stator, do the primary chain and all other shit, because you got to take that out. It's not that big of a deal, but the parts are not cheap. The price I mentioned, you get cheaper than that. I think you can get clutch shell for under 400. You can get stators for about 70. Good stuff, but still not cheap. Still not cheap. Yeah, that's hooked up on a Sebring convertible. Battery's charged up enough. It's got at least 12.1, 12.2 volts. That's pretty close to full charge. I just put one on the positive, and make sure, keep that by plastic. Make sure you don't short nothing out. One on the negative. So I start the car up. You'll see this jump up, and you can see the voltage jumped up to almost 14, and that's about where it should be, around 14. So fully charged batteries around 12.5, 12.6, and when it's charging up really good. It's like 14.1 around there someplace. I don't know how accurate this gauge is, but that's what it should be doing on the bike. And you know, you don't need an idiot gauge. I mean, basically, if you just had a you know, just a voltmeter in the car, it's fine. But some people are just too stupid to read a voltmeter. In my opinion, if you're too stupid to read a voltmeter, you're too stupid to drive a car. But anyway. And just to explain better, we're having this hooked up with the voltmeter, and this is how I hook up the battery charger. Because a lot of times I'll throw this on a battery charger quite often, so I don't want to keep the battery up, you know, so it doesn't get screwed up. But I just have it hooked over to the starter, the positive on the starter, and I stick the negative on the, you know, on the brake and master cylinder, because it's harder to kind of hook it from the battery. To get behind the battery, you might have to take the battery cover off and stuff. This is the fast and easy way. But you notice the wires laying across the heat shield on a pipe, so that can get hot. So you know, when I tested it, I was only testing it for a few minutes, so it didn't matter, right? But this is a fast way to hook up the you know, battery charger on this bike too. Just be careful you don't short out, you know, by the end there. Yeah, and typically I have this like this on all my battery chargers. I have this positive covered up with some tape, because when you're putting it in this thing to connect to the positive, you can very easily short it out. So, you know, I just open it up, and this, you know, the black tape might rest against some metal that can ground it, but it doesn't, because it's got the electrical tape on it. That's why I always hook up the battery charger over here. It's a lot faster, a lot easier, and you don't short nothing out. But you know, obviously something's wrong with this thing. I'm going to figure it out though, and I'm going to test the stator next. Alright, I'm doing a stator check, and there's a plug. You see this, the plug. I pulled it out of here. This is the bottom of the motorcycle, okay? So you see this is the bottom of the motorcycle. And you got the plug, and I pull the plug out, and I use a couple alligator clips, and it's only 2-prong plug. And the first thing you do is you're going to check the stator for having the right resistance, ohm resistance, and I just have this connected to an ohm gauge, showing about 1 ohm, so that's okay. And the other thing to do is you want to check to make sure it's not shorted. And the way to do that is you take one wire, so in other words you have, it should say infinite ohms, and when you ground it, so I'm just grounding it up here, right here on the brake master cylinder, rear brake, and it's still showing infinite ohms. That's on the one side. We connect this back up, and on this side, check the other side. So it's got, you know, one side of the stator is connected, and this side I'm going to ground, right? So ground it. Let's ground it. And it's still showing infinite ohms, so it's not shorted, and it's got the right resistance, so that's a good sign. Next thing I'm going to check for is actually I had the stator break a couple times, but the one that's, well, next thing I'm going to check for is making sure it has the right voltage coming out of it when you're running the engine, and that's DC volts. And just flip the gauge around. Have to start it up. It should be running about 12 to 18 volts per 1,000 RPM. So I'm using a 200 scale. That should be good enough. Now, what I did though, this is a typical problem though. I don't know if this is the problem though. It could just be a stupid wire. It could be just this wire needs to be plugged back in a couple times. It could be, you know, it'd be nice if the stator's not broke. But I changed the stator and the clutch basket. What I did was, this is several years ago, before they had the ones that are like stainless steel. In other words,
there's magnets in the clutch basket, and they're talking, this is like the 86 to 90, the first 4-speed Evolution Sportsters, and there's magnets in there. These magnets, they come loose, they're glued onto the inside of the stator, and they're glued onto the inside of the clutch basket, excuse me, and they hit the stator, right? And that's, you just got to buy a whole nother stator, and you got to buy a new clutch basket, So what I had, I forgot where it was. I think it was Virginia or something. I found out from some, biker shop. This guy was putting all the magnets in this nylon basket so they wouldn't come out. And that's why I don't think this shouldn't be screwed up. But they have another replacement part. If you got a problem with this clutch basket falling apart, the weight's falling apart on the early Evos, the 86 to 90, the 4-speed Evo Sportsters, there's another part, aftermarket part out there, that has the stainless steel over the magnets. The magnets don't even show up. You don't even see them. And the stainless steel is non-magnetized. So the magnets definitely stay in there then. You have absolutely no problem. But what I would do is, before you put that clutch basket on, I'd have a few welds put around the starter ring gear, so it's actually welded to the clutch basket before you put it on. Because after a while, what happens is, it's an interference fit. That's how the starter ring gear is put on the clutch basket. It'll spin, and you got to take it out again. I don't know why they don't weld it. I don't know why they don't do that, but just put 3 or 4 welds on it. You don't need to put a bead all the way around it. Just put a couple welds on it, a few of them, and that'll hold it in place. It'll never spin on a clutch basket. Actually, I don't have that. I don't know if I have one of those old ones laying around. I'd show it to you, but the starter ring gear is actually just pressed onto the clutch basket. It lasts for a while, but then a few years later, especially if you're trying to start the engine a lot, it'll spin. If you have some welds on it, it never spins. So if you have to replace this part, get the one that has the stainless steel encased all around the magnets. They never come out. And before you put it in, have some welds put on that starter gear, and you should never have a problem again. I don't know if there's a problem with this. I'm going to find out when I check it with the voltmeter. Alright, got the camera on a voltmeter. Let's see what it says. Try it again, because it might be a little low, but it shouldn't be like not charging. It should be hard. Well, it's maybe a little low. It's supposed to be doing 12 to 18 volts per 1,000 RPM, and it was doing about 24 volts at 3,000 RPM. But I mean, that really should be charging up the battery. So, and there's something else I want to point out. If the magnets hit the stator, like I just changed the oil in the transmission, you'll see junk in the oil, especially on the magnetic plug. You don't even have to change the oil. If you just open up the access plug, I'll show you where. Yeah, if you just open up this access plug here and you feel around in the inside with your finger, a lot of times you'll feel pieces of that magnet in there. But I didn't see this, so I don't know. Maybe it's just a wiring problem. So figured it out. But that's how you check the output. The output seems a little low, but it's putting out some charging capability. So I don't know. It could either be the regulator or the wiring. Alright, got the wire hooked up to the battery, and it's showing 12.6 volts full charge battery.
and start it up, see if it goes up to 13. It's not, but so I put the wire back on the stator and I got it on there nice and cleaned it up with some emery cloth, the contacts. Nope. So if the stator checks out, I guess it's the regulator or the wiring. So I'm gonna change the regulator.